My dear students, Assalamu alaikum. In this lecture, we will discuss the basic concept of supply and its various elements like supply schedule, supply curve, and market supply. Firstly, we will discuss the term supply. Students, supply refers to various quantities of goods and services that producers are willing to sell at all possible market prices. In other words, we can define it as the supply of a commodity is the schedule of the quantities of a commodity that would be offered for sale at all possible prices during a period of time. And that period of time can be a day, a week, a month, and so on. Thus, supply reflects the ability and willingness of producers to sell various quantities of commodities at different prices. So we can say supply describes the economic relationship between the goods price and how much businesses are willing to provide. Students, an increase in price almost always leads to an increase in the quantity supplied of that good or service, while a decrease in price will decrease the quantity supplied, which means as the price for a good rise, the quantity supplied rises, and as the price of a good falls, the quantity supplied falls. Thus, there is a positive relationship between the price of a commodity and its quantity supplied, which is the main essence of the law of supply, which we will discuss in detail in our next lecture. Now, coming to one of the important elements of supply, which is supply schedule. Students, a supply schedule is a table that shows the quantities of goods and services that producers are willing to supply at various prices. In simple terms, we can say that a table which shows the relationship between market price and the amount of a commodity that producers are willing to produce and sell is called a supply schedule. Like table given here is a supply schedule of commodity X. From this table we will see that when the price of commodity X is rupees 2, 2 units of commodity X are supplied by the producer. When the price of commodity X rises to rupees 3, 7 units of commodity X are supplied, and when the price further goes up to rupees 4, the quantity supplied of commodity X has risen to 12 units and so on. So the table shows that higher the price, higher will be the quantity supplied, and lower the price, lower will be the quantity supplied. Now coming to supply curve. Students, supply curve is a graph showing how much of a product a firm will sell at different prices. Or we can say supply curve is the graphical presentation of supply schedule. If we plot supply schedule of commodity X given in our previous slide on a graph paper, we will obtain supply curve as given in figure here. The figure here lists prices on the vertical axis and quantity supplied on the horizontal axis. Each point on the graph shows how many units of commodity X a producer is willing to sell at a particular price. The slope of supply curve is positive, that is, it slopes upwards from left to right, which shows that a producer will offer more of commodity X at higher price and less at lower price. Dear students, an important point to note here is that in economic terminology, the term supply is not the same as quantity supplied. When economists refer to supply, they mean the relationship between a range of prices and the quantities supplied at those prices. That is a relationship that can be illustrated with the help of a supply curve and a supply schedule as shown here in this slide. However, When we refer to the term quantity supplied, we mean only a certain point on the supply curve or one quantity on the supply schedule. Now coming to another important element of supply, which is market supply. Dear students, supply can refer to the output of one producer or to the total output of all producers in the market, which is called market supply. So market supply is the sum of the supplies of all sellers. That is, it is the sum of supply of all individual firms in a market. In a market with more firms, market supply would be the sum of the amounts produced by each of the firms in the market. Thus, market supply is simply the sum of all that is supplied each period by all producers of a single product. For example, if there are three sellers of commodity X in a market, that is seller A, seller B, and seller C, and at certain price, seller A is selling 10 units of commodity X, seller B is selling 20 units of commodity X, and seller C is selling 30 units of commodity X. Then market supply would be equal to the supply by seller A plus supply by seller C plus supply by seller B, which is 10 plus 20 plus 30, which will be equal to 60. Thus, market supply is 60 units of commodity X supplied by all the three sellers in the market. Students, a tabular statement showing various quantities of a commodity that all the producers in a market are willing to sell at various levels of prices during a given period of time is called a market supply schedule. And this market supply schedule is obtained by adding all the individual supplies at each and every level of price. It is different from individual supply schedule, which refers to a tabular statement showing various quantities of a commodity that a single producer in a market is willing to sell at various levels of price. Students, let us understand the derivation of market supply schedule with the help of table given here. Assuming that there are only two producers in the market, that is the producer A and producer B, as seen in the table, market supply is obtained by adding the supplies of supplier A and supplier B at different prices. At price rupees 8, that is when the market price of commodity X is rupees 8, producer A offers a positive quantity, which is 30 units of commodity X, but producer B offers nothing. Because producer B is less efficient than producer A, that is, B's cost per unit is higher than that of producer A. So at low price, producer B is not willing to offer good X for sale in the market. Market supply in this case is the same as the individual supply, that is the amount offered by producer A. However, as price rises to rupees 12 per unit of commodity X, producer A offers 60 units of commodity X and producer B offers 15 units of commodity X. Market supply is therefore 75 units of commodity X, that is 60 units by producer A and 15 units by producer B. So 60 plus 15 would be equal to 75. At each price, market supply is sum of the quantities offered by producer A and producer B as shown in the table here. Now coming to market supply curve. Dear students, market supply curve is simply the graphical presentation of market supply schedule. Thus, market supply curve is the horizontal addition of the individual supply curves of all the firms in a particular market. In case of our example, market supply curve is arrived at by adding the supply curves of the two producers, that is the supply curve of producer A and supply curve of producer B. It would be obtained by plotting the information contained in column first and column fourth of the table. SA is the supply curve of producer A and SB is the supply curve of producer B, and summation of S, which is equal to SA plus SB, is the market supply curve. Market supply curve, like individual supply curve, is upward sloping from left to right, indicating the positive relationship between price and quantity supplied. Thank you.